Good morning, everyone. It's Robert from On My Turntable. Hope you're having a great morning this morning. It's Sunday morning. It's a coffee kind of morning. I want to continue my VCLT review and receive some great VCLT from a few amazing people. There's so many amazing people on the vinyl community, but a few people have sent me some wonderful VCLT, especially my good friend Aaron Mutha Alamare, who sent these three amazing albums to me. Alvin Lee, 10 Years After, and I'll talk about those in just a second. And do a review. I just want to go over the band and what they have and what I have. And Aaron is the type of guy that he researches your likes and what you're into, and that's what he sends the VCLT on is stuff that you're into and stuff that you want, and he's just amazing how he does that. Before I get started, please hit the like and subscribe button so I can continue to show you guys some great bands and artists that I have in my collection. Hit that little bell so it reminds you that I've got a video coming out, and just want to keep this thing going and having a great time doing it. I still want to continue my Albums to Discover series through Discog Shuffle. I've got Echo and the Bunnymen all set up to go. I'll do that maybe a little later on today, tomorrow type of thing. But let's get on to 10 Years After. I try not to make this one too long, but 10 Years After, great British blues rock band formed in 1966. Not talk too much about on the vinyl community. I'm not sure why, because Alvin Lee, the great blues guitarist, is right up there with the best of them. He really was. Unfortunately, we lost him in 2013 at age 68 by complications from I think an operation. But it was a big loss in the music industry. Of course, 10 Years After, from Nottingham, England. They released a bunch of albums, they had that period between 68 and 73 where they just released albums. They've had 8 top 40 tracks in the UK, 12 tracks in the top 200 in the US, mainly consisting of Alvin Lee. He's the staple of the band. Just an in-your-face blues player that hits every note when he plays the lead on that fretboard. He's just remarkable runs that he has. Rick Lee on drums. He started with the Jaybirds before they were 10 Years After. So he's been around since the beginning. The Jaybirds were the original version of 10 Years After. It includes Rick Lee on drums and Leo Lyons on bass. Chick Churchill came a little later on keyboards. He originally joined as a road manager, but then turned into their keyboard player. And then changed the name to 10 Years After in 1966. There's some rumors on where the name came from. There's 2 versions of it, actually. I'm not sure which one to believe. So 1966, they changed it from the Jaybirds to 10 Years After. After Alvin Lee and Leo Lyons honored Elvis in one of Alvin Lee's idols. It was 10 years after Elvis, he had that successful year in 1956. So that's one version of it, that it was 10 years after that event. Another rumor is that the name change came from a magazine that Leo Lyons was reading, and there was a major advertisement in there talking about advertising a book called Suez 10 Years After. I tend to go more for that name than I would the Elvis thing, but who knows? Bands come up with names. 10 years after, I thought it was a reference to some event that, 10 years after they began. I don't know. It's still, it's a cool name. It's a unique, cool name. They've been included in so many huge festivals. Woodstock was their big breakthrough in the U.S. It gave them the exposure that they needed. But there's so many songs that they have than just Going Home, which is I'm Going Home. It's a great track, but there's so many other tracks involved that these guys have in their wheelhouse for sure. Just some of the albums that I currently have. Shush. It's 1969 release, third studio album. I've still got to get their debut and their second. I had all these albums. This is on the Durham label. Hit number 20 in the US, number 4 in the UK. I've got Cricklewood Green, fourth album by the band. This is on the same Durham label. Some blistering solos on this one. Band sounds tight. It's a heavy, heavy album. It really, really is. So good. They are so good. Then we have What? This one, I think maybe it was released in '70 as well. It may have come out too soon after Cricklewood Green. It's not as, if you compare it to Cricklewood Green, it's not the same quality as far as playing. On its own, it's a great album, but if you compare the two, it's just missing just something slight, but I still love it. I still love it. Still happy to have it. One of the most commercially successful ones, Space and Time, 1971 release. Their sixth studio album. Of course, one of their biggest hits, I'd Love to Change the World. Still, that song still resonates today. I'd love to change the world today. I really would. But the words and music are still pertain to all this crap going on in the world today. It's amazing how some of these songs can stand the test of time and mean more now than they did when they came out. It's kind of bizarre. It's more of an acoustic based album, still with some heavy tracks on it. I think they were trying to copy the success of Led Zeppelin, because Led Zeppelin mixed the acoustic and rock together and the heavy stuff, and that's what Space and Time did, which made it a great album. It's a really good album. One of the originals that got me into this band, I was back in the day when Columbia House was the big thing. This was kind of an oops. I don't remember ordering this one, but this one came in the mail, and I've been enthralled with it and ever since I got it. This is Rock and Roll Music to the World. And I don't know if it pertains to and I've yet to find a reference to this cover, but I'm pretty sure this is Woodstock and Alvin Lee looking out at the crowd. But the album came out after Woodstock. It came out in '72. But, and this is on the Red Columbia label. But I don't know if it's a reference to Woodstock, but I just think it is. I'm going to stick with mine. Back to the heavier sound from the previous album. Standing at the Station, great track. Choo Choo Mama, classic blues track. And of course the title track, I'd Love to Change the World. Sorry, what am I talking about? 10 years after. Rock and Roll Music, sorry. The title track, I'd Love to Change the World. Great album. One of the best. And classic performances of 10 years after. This was a 1986 release, I believe, compilation album that I had in my collection. It's got all the hits on it. It's got I'm Going Home, One of These Days, I'd Love to Change the World, Tomorrow I'll Be Out of Town, Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, Baby, Won't You Let Me Rock and Roll Music to the World, which I just mentioned. Great track. It's Getting Harder, Positive Vibrations, and Choo Choo Mama. Yeah, great stuff. Great compilation album. Great way to get into the band. So VCLT, speaking of, from the great Aaron Mutha Alamare. This is 10 years after Alvin Lee and Company. It's on the London label in MoFi sleeve. Beautiful. This is that's the cool thing about doing this review is it gives me a chance to get back and review and listen to these great albums. I got these VCLTs back in August, I think. This is an amazing album. It's a compilation album from Durham label, including songs that didn't make it on the other albums, and different versions of some of the songs from those other albums. Remarkable stuff. The opening track, The Sounds, psychedelic lead, and lots of echo in the lead as well, and in the vocals. It's just mind-blowing, this song. And then it's just a remarkable song. And then you've got Rock Your Mama. Great grooving track. Fun bluesy track as well. Of course, great lead work by Alvin Lee. He's just an remarkable. This guy, again, fills his leads with so many notes. Hold Me Tight, great boogie woogie track. That definitely is great boogie woogie done 10 years after style, and you'd have to listen to it to understand that. But Standing at the Crossroads, classic blues number. Band's tight. Love the vocals as well. And again, great lead work on that one. Then you've got Portable People, traditional blues track. It's an acoustic track as well. Great harmonies, hypnotic. Love the guitar work in there. It's a nice departure from the rest of the album, but it fits if you understand what I mean. And then it finally ends with Boogie On. It's a jammin' song. It's a run and blues track. Builds nicely into an awesome track featuring great keyboard solos by Chick Churchill. Great drum solos by Rick Lee. This guy's an amazing drummer, underrated drummer. Leo Lyons, some great bass runs. I was going to send this to Glenn Kellaway, and I think I will, because Glenn and Lisa Tedesco are doing a bass channel, and this would be a great song to feature on their channel, I think. And then, of course, it just ends with a blistering Alvin Lee solo, and he plays lead, and he also kind of yelps, and he kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain how he plays. It's an amazing way of playing it. He's got this, not a yelp, I don't want to call it a yelp, it's just the way he sings out when he plays these leads. Just remarkable. Another VCLT I got, On the Road to Freedom. This is 1973 release. Kind of one of his first solo albums while he was still with 10 Years After. It's a nice departure from the heavy blues rock. Still a rockin' album, by the way. It features Alvin Lee, of course, and Mylon Lefebvre. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Mylon is a gospel singer, American gospel singer, and not that it's a gospel album by any means, because there's talk of them when they're putting the album together, out smoking pot and coming up with ideas for the album. But it's got some great players on here as well. It's got George Harrison, Steve Winwood, Jim Capaldi from Traffic, Ron Wood, and Mick Fleetwood, just to name a few. And I think they recorded while they were building the studio at Alvin Lee's barn. They were using the Who's studio, which was, so it's a small world in the music industry for sure. Fallen Angel, and a song composed by George Harrison, So Sad, No Love on His Own, were the singles off of this one. Two great tracks. It's more of a subtle version of Alvin Lee, but there's still some excellent guitar work on this, and played so amazing. Mylon Lefebvre has a great vocals. Sorry, he's a great voice. Some tracks. There's also some folky tracks, almost like Crosby, Stills and Nash tracks on here as well. It's not a blues track at all. Not a blues track on the album, but there's also some countrified tracks on there. Again, just a more laid back, easy listening type of album, but it's really, really good. It's really good, really enjoyable. So happy to have that. And finally, the last one that I was sent. This is 10 years later. Alvin Lee, Ride On. This is a combination of half studio and then half live. There's a classic photo of Alvin Lee. This is on the RSO label. Again, in the MoFi sleeve. Different band. Not the original band at all. This one was released in 1979, so the rest of the band is gone. Features Tom Compton on drums and Mick Hawksworth on bass, and of course Alvin Lee on vocals and guitar. They do a version of Hey Joe, Going Home on this one as well. Ain't Nothing Shakin' and Scat Encounter. Those are live versions, and in the studio they do Too Much, It's a Gaz. That's a great song. Ride On Cowboy, another fantastic song. Sitting Here, Can't Sleep at Night. And on the stage they've done it so there's no overdubs at all, and it's a true version of how 10 years later sounded. It's a Gaz. It's a heavy track. I love the echoes in his voice, and hard driving rhythm in that song as well. So thank you so much, Aaron Mutha Alamare, for my addition to 10 Years After, knowing that I love this band. You're amazing. Some great VCLT from one of my favorite players, Mr. Alvin Lee. Alvin Lee and Company. Oops, sorry, my notes. This is a great album. If you don't know it, definitely get it. And 10 years later, Ride On. So if you don't know 10 Years After, definitely check them out. Amazing British blues band in their own right. They can stand up to any band out there for sure. And Alvin Lee can definitely stand up to any guitar player out there. And he's surrounded himself with nothing but the best. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye now.